So for this session, we are going to be talking about the evolution of ZKProof as an organization, what we're trying to do. This is a standardization effort, so Mary will focus on the quite consequent effort of standardizing zero-knowledge proofs. And it's just a brief overview to give you context on what we're trying to achieve. So ZKProof has started in 2018. You were there on the very first one, right?
I wasn't there for the first
Oh,
one.
no. Okay.
I was there for the second.
Very first one was in Boston, and we had the luck of having a steering committee form under the impulse of Professor Shafi Goldwasser, who basically called her friends that she co-wrote or just, peers, and said, there's been 30 plus years of zero-knowledge proofs, and we're now starting this effort of forming a standardization workshop. Would you be in the steering committee? And we're happy to say that all of them accepted. So the origin of this effort, and maybe that's kind of like why it might have been appealing to you to join so quickly, was get a sort of supply chain of trust all the way from the mathematics and the proofs that the professors and the academia are working on and producing, all the way to the applications and the real world. And we're seeing a lot of applications, primarily in the blockchain space, a lot of work in Ethereum and other spaces. And you realize that we do need, if we are to trust this technology when it's used, we need to retrace all the way to why we believe a proof is true. And we try to get to a point where all of the uses are trustless. If a proof verifies, then you're good. But we're still pushing the trust. Where the trust is remaining is here. The world trusts you guys and this effort to be reviewing what's going on in zero knowledge, trying to find flaws and propose better outcomes. And that's what this conference is about, is bridging all the way from the mathematics to the concrete applications. So the way we evolved as an organization is, first we asked ourselves, is it time to standardize? Are the technologies mature enough? And so early on it was all about the trusted setups and growth, 16 and those schemes. And as we moved along, we understood that probably, yes, there is a place here, there's enough use to actually form the specification that could become a standard later. So, Mary, what did that lead to?
Thanks, John. So over the next few days, we're going to be talking a lot about both all of the amazing work that lots of people in the room here are doing, but also about some working groups who have been working on trying to write some specifications for some for certain for certain zero-knowledge proofs. I would say that all of the effort that has gone into this has been done by volunteers. These aren't paid efforts. It's not the case that people are sort of coming along and doing it because they have to. These are people who really are going above and beyond to try and make sure that when we do bring zero knowledge to the world, we do it in the right way. So you're going to hear from a working group that is working on the Plonkish specification, on Fiat-Shamir protocols, on Sigma protocols, on Oracle compilers. I do want to sort of give a shout out to lots of the people that have been working very closely with me while I'm here, while I have the stage. This includes Daria Hopwood, who is here today. Also Jack Griggs, some of you know him as Strad, who is not. Ying Tong Lei, also here today somewhere, and Mikale Oru, here today somewhere, who you should be hearing from in the next couple of days. When these sessions, which are going to be talking about the working groups and the work that they've been doing and how to progress, what the next steps are, whether you have any feedback, these are open sessions. You do not necessarily have to have contributed anything to the working group in the past to come along and participate. You do not necessarily need to be an expert or even especially knowledgeable, but I would say these are going to be working sessions as opposed to teaching sessions. So if you are an expert and if you are knowledgeable, then we would really welcome your input. I'm mostly saying this because I had a question on the Telegram the other day that was I should address this. There's no particular need to do any homework before you come to the session. Hopefully, if we run things well, if we do a good job, it should be the case that we can tell you everything you need to know in the session. But obviously, we're going to be working hard over the next couple of days to make sure that's true. One final thing I would say is that all of the work from the working groups has been supported heavily by the editors. And in particular, the editors have been working to make sure that the process for introducing new working groups or maintaining old working groups is documented on the ZKProof website. And this is an ongoing process. We're continuously updating it. We're continuously trying to make it better. We're continuously trying to make it more accessible for more people. Again, please bear in mind this is a volunteer effort, but we do our best. And one thing that the editors are also doing, which will be important for these working groups down the line, is we are trying to make, over the next year, we're going to be putting quite a lot of focus into documenting important applications of the zero knowledge proofs. And this is so that when we go to bodies like the IETF and that they're like, why even bother? Why is this important? We have a very good answer. I mean, I can give an answer off the top of my head now, but I want a really good answer when it comes to that question. Is there anything else I maybe haven't covered here?
So, adding to that, we do have quite a lot of interaction with NIST over the past couple of years, who NIST have been helping us target the right let's say, form of specifications that could be useful to form a standard later on. NIST have started efforts in these advanced cryptography realms with threshold cryptography and with an opening to zero knowledge proofs over there. So there's people looking at the outcomes of what happens here. On the more concrete side, you know that NIST what they do is specify to the US government what could be useful and the rest of the American industry, banks, etc., then follow suit. So it's kind of, it's a form of standard effort. So working with them is really important for us to make sure we're at the right level of specifications. To conclude how ZKProof.org is evolving, we've expanded a little bit the scope from the early days. We would be talking mostly about the applications for privacy. And you can see that this first day is much more centered around verifiable computation and just those elements of scale that the technology can bring. So we have these, as we see the technology being used more and more, we understand that there's an outcome to have there as well. Make those different efforts in those industries collaborate where they can, and this is a place where lots of these actors can come and talk about the common grounds that they want to achieve together. One such effort, and I've alluded about it before, and basically with everybody that I'm talking to preparing this, is the fact that we want all of these verified computation actors to decide if they want to focus their effort on a particular verifier and drill down, figure out if there's bugs, try to specify it as much as possible for formal verification of a particular verifier. And that's one expansion that has a expected concrete outcome in the next months. This is an effort for tomorrow. You're also going to hear things about ZKML. You have Mutu coming on day 3 to tell us how they do proving of inference of a Llama 2 model, which is really interesting. It's at the edge of the applications that are today possible, but what we really want to do is make sure that whatever zero-knowledge proof is being used, there's a trust that can be had on the technology that stems from all of your efforts looking into the mathematics of it, looking into the security proofs, and figuring out if these techniques, how to make sure that these techniques can be trusted. So that hasn't changed. What is changing now is the scope of how many things are happening with zero-knowledge proofs. Do you want to add something?
Yeah. I mean, probably the last thing I really want to say is that we often get asked questions along the lines of, do we need specifications, do we need standards? And I would argue yes. It's why I'm here. It's why many of you are here. I suspect I might be preaching to the choir, but nonetheless, indulge me. One of these reasons is that standards do not change, which means that the engineers who are going to be implementing them are not facing moving goalposts. They can just stick with one library and know that that's stable. A lot of people who aren't cryptographers, surprise, surprise, find cryptography quite scary. You kind of are in a position where you have to trust the experts, and it can be quite hard to distinguish who is an expert from who is a very good salesperson. It's also quite hard to distinguish a well-reviewed, stable specification from a fresh-off-the-press research paper. And when it comes to these research papers, I would say that researchers have to be allowed to experiment and make honest mistakes. To demand perfection from a researcher is to stall progress, exclude newcomers, and create something of a toxic environment. But at the same time, we want to be making sure that the things we're implementing, the things that we're using, the things that we're recommending are things that have been, properly reviewed. And the final thing I would say about it is that if you're using non-standardized cryptography, this kind of means that when things go wrong, the blame is squarely on you. Whereas if you're using something that's been standardized, it's less likely to go wrong in the first place, but when it does, at least you can say, look, guys, I did things properly, I followed the right process, I did everything I was supposed to do, it was just bad luck. And that's a much nicer story to be able to tell. Anything else to add?
That's one big interesting reason to standardize and use standards. Thank you. So with that, all of the sessions that we talked about tomorrow on standards are going to be on room number 2. I do want to mention 2 things that I forgot. We did have one of the milestones of ZKProof was to produce something called ZK interface. I don't know if many of you know, but ZK interface, which is an R1CS specification, was then picked up by a DARPA program, $100 million DARPA program, and then evolved into a bit more of an advanced intermediary representation that was used for this entire program to coordinate between many teams. And I'm happy to tell here that this DARPA program is now looking at bringing back their advancements to ZKProof so that we can continue this R1CS-based intermediary representation and continue to build on what was built in that program. So that's an important outcome there. I'll leave it at that. Thank you again for helping building this community. Thank you.
Oh, any questions? No? I have one. How would you tackle the kind of challenge of, on the one hand, having a standard around a scheme or a component of a scheme, and on the other hand, like all the progress that is going on that we had a chance to hear from Ale, but is ongoing constantly.
I can just start by saying that challenge is at the core of any standardization. I guess I'm now fulfilling that role of that salesman that's not a cryptographer. Okay, so listen, man. So there is a real tension there, because if you stop progress, you can start standardizing, and people can start, like Mary said, target a moving goalpost and form useful products that can be actually tagged and stopped in time. But we all see the movement in zero knowledge. I can say that in retrospect, there's a little bit of a consensus that we should have started with standardization of Groth 16 when we really started the effort. Yeah, there were things to solve there, or like further advancements afterwards, but it was still, and it remains, a very efficient and good scheme that could have been standardized back then. We took the choice of going with progress rather than stopping, and kind of regret it now. So what we're doing now is we're saying, by all means, talk about the latest, folding schemes and everything that you guys are going to present, but we're not going to standardize that just now. We're going to be looking at what has been stable for the past years and make sure that it's useful for a really large, user base to pick now.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. Again, I would say that this is one of the reasons to try and distinguish what is research from what is a specification or a standard. Because if it's research, then you should be looking at the newest, latest, greatest thing. If it's something that you're recommending people to use in practice, especially for very important applications, maybe you want something that's a bit more stable. And the question of when exactly is the right time, that's a really hard question, and arguably one of the reasons that we're here.
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, about Groth 16, it's re-randomizable, and I think we need better ways to analyze protocols that take into account the fact that proofs are not ideal, they're re-randomizable, they're replayable, and I have an idea for how to do that, but I won't discuss that now.
Yep, can both be a feature or a bug depending on the way that you're using it. Would agree there.
Okay. I will just add that anyone is welcome to join these working groups tomorrow, but also in general. If you feel called to actually join the effort and contribute async, like not on the actual workshops, but continuously, this is always open.
It goes also to our listeners on YouTube in the future. Right now, in your present, you need to call and join.
All right, thank you.